Hi guys, welcome back. So Scotland 48, Georgia 7. We've got our first live international match there up in the Northern Hemisphere here. And it was a good warm-up for Scotland. Scotland win very easily. Georgia tried hard, but were completely outclassed, to be honest. And I'll have a little word on Georgia towards the end because they gave their all, but they're struggling at this level, to be honest. I just want to look really at the areas of Scotland's game rather than kind of the nitty-gritty of how every try was scored, because really this is a warm-up for those parts of the game, for the Six Nations and for the Eight Nations competition. So Scrum first of all. Now, Georgia's big strength is their forward pack, and they pride themselves in the scrum. And Scotland's pack, well, they dominated Georgia all round the park. The scrum was a bit closer. I think there was a penalty either way. The Scottish pack's actually a bit heavier. That doesn't mean it's stronger necessarily, but I thought for a lot of the time the scrum was 50-50, but I'd give Scotland the edge in the scrum. Georgia were pushing early a few times because I think they were a little bit worried about the Scottish scrum. So Scotland will be very happy with how their scrum stood up. And their replacements coming off the bench are really good. McInally at hooker, Keeble I think's good. So yeah, really impressed with that. The Scottish front row looking a lot stronger than it did a year or two ago. The line out was absolutely fine. There were no real problems. I think it was disrupted once, but their big positive was their drive was, really, really good. I think 3 tries off their driving line out. So that's a good warm up for that nice technical part of the game. A part of the game you've got to be good at in internationals. Their line out's going to be tested a lot more, but hey, you can only do with what you've got. Now, kicking wise is a bit strange in this game because they didn't really need to kick an awful lot. Hastings tried a nice little chip over the top to a 13 to Harris, which probably should have worked, but I think it was dropped. He put a few little grubbers in behind, I think more for practice. They didn't need to actually kick, they could have just gone through the phases, but they tried a few things, but it wasn't really the best game for practicing their kicking strategy. A few poor ones here and there. Price had an absolute shocker, I think, clearing his own straight into touch after carrying the ball back in the 22. Anyway, and defence, another area that wasn't particularly tested. I mean, they went through their tackles, they looked connected, but they weren't overly tested. So it was a good technical workout, but intensity-wise, didn't quite get the workout they needed in that respect. Okay, so looking at Scotland's attack, what I noticed was they were really looking to try and reverse the ball when it was on. They weren't just going the same way the whole time. They were looking for that reverse of play, which could isolate players potentially, but also creates tries. I think Watson's try is a case in point where they go for a quick reverse and get the score. Horn creates a nice try, I think, at the end for Darcy Graham, again reversing the play, spotting the short side. So that's good play. And if Scotland really went through any decent number of phases, it looked like they were going to score. Georgia tackled manfully, but really the quality wasn't there, and Scotland were creating plenty of opportunities. I like the way the forwards carried. They ran onto the ball nicely, but when it was slow and tight, their tight work was pretty tidy. The noticeable thing in their attack again was when Russell came on, just the tempo upped, the width upped, and the creativity upped. Sure, the risk upped a little bit as well, but that's what he does. I mean, he looks a class apart from Hastings. Hastings is a good controller, but Russell's is just a different level. And Horn, I've mentioned before, I really think Horn's going to be their number one. It's probably only a matter of time before it's Horn and Russell as their first choice halfback pairings, as in Horn taking over from Price. Other performances that stood out, I thought in the forwards, Watson's the class act. He's their best forward by miles. Could easily be the Lions 7 if that's the way they wanted to go. Cummings as well, I thought was brilliant in the second row. Very strong, gives the physical edge that they really need in that area. Liked him, some strong work there. And the wingers were dangerous. Graham, Van der Merwe, both popping up for some good tries. Van der Merwe maybe a bit upright in his run if I was to be a bit hypercritical. But he's looking for work, definitely nice and solid in his work. Graham's feet are brilliant. So yeah, some decent individual performances there. No shockers, but they weren't particularly under massive amounts of pressure. So just a quick word on Georgia. I mean, they gave the rule like I said, but there were some negatives. Their kicking was pretty poor at times. Some of their technical work was quite poor. And they gave away a lot of penalties, which you're going to do when you're under the pump, but a lot of the penalties were ones that they didn't really need to give away at all. Technical things that they just deliberately going in at the side, I mean, just by choice, rejoining a maul, which is obvious. So there's certain things they could improve overnight by looking at some replays and actually just saying, okay, let's just not give away things that we know we're not allowed to do. And they rarely got their attack phases past a few phases, maybe in the second half a bit better. You know, on the positives, individuals put in big tackles, and the try was very well worked. The scrum half, I think, popped a lovely ball over the top and beat that hook defence with the winger going in. So, you know, okay for Georgia, but I think it does show they're not at the level of the Six Nations teams yet. But, you know, they've got to be encouraged to keep on going because it is their national sport. They're putting a lot of time and money into this. So, you know, fair play to them. Keep going. But good warm-up for Scotland. Nice, easy win at the end. Let me know what you think on the Scottish shape, where they were strong, where maybe they were weak, where individuals stood out or where they looked poor. But a decent warm-up, but really the crunch is yet to come. Anyway, guys, I will catch you next time.